Hello students, welcome to One Day Law Revision, Module 1, Introduction to Vulnerable and Disadvantaged Groups. Let's quickly go through the synopsis first. Meaning of vulnerable and disadvantaged group, structural discrimination and vulnerable group, rule of law to overcome such discrimination, and criminal law as a tool of social change. So let's get started. First of all, what is the meaning of vulnerable group? Now the meaning of vulnerable is highly evasive, means it's what is vulnerable? We know weakness, or we know the weak one. So common understanding is that people who are easily susceptible means influenced, or you can say harmed, means people who are easily harmed, like easily harmed in a physical or emotionally way, or emotionally injured, subject to unnecessary criticism, or in less advantageous position in a society, means they are in a less advantageous position in a society. So those people will be termed as vulnerable people. So what we got here, that they are easily harmed, or they can easily be injured physically or emotionally, and they are in a less advantaged position in a society. So these are those people who find it difficult to lead a comfortable life because of their position. As they get a less advantageous position, it is difficult for them to lead a comfortable life, and that leads to lack of development opportunities due to this position. Now further, if you see, due to adverse social, economical, cultural and other practices present in the society, like there are few group of people who are judged, or who are easily influenced or harmed, or they are put in such a position that they don't get the opportunity to grow, they don't get employment opportunity, they don't get development opportunities, don't even get basic human rights. At that time, when they find it difficult to get these rights, they are vulnerable people. So how they will grow? This discriminatory treatment is there from a longer period of time. We see this in our history as well, that people were not treated properly. So this kind of people need special attention for the protection of themselves or state, to avoid exploitation or a harmful environment. Now this is vulnerable group. Now people who are discriminated on the basis of sex, race, birth in a particular community, like you call it caste, religion, etc., or any type of disability, then they are described as disadvantaged group. So one was vulnerable group, where you see injuries, physical, emotional, or they are less advantageous position, they don't get the advantages, they are vulnerable group. And now when they're discriminated on the basis of sex, race, birth, caste, etc., etc., they are disadvantaged people. So now here, European Foundation for the Improvement of Living Working Condition, they have described vulnerable people. What they say here, vulnerable people mean groups that exercise a higher risk of poverty. They will be poor. Why? They will not get direct opportunity of development, right? Less development opportunity. And social exclusion means what? They are excluded from the society, from the general population. They are of minority, they are migrants, normally they move from one place to another, they are disabled, they are homeless, they are struggling. So all these factors they have seen, and they have defined that these people will experience these things, and their children all often face difficulties that can lead to further social exclusions. So if you face one difficulty, you don't get the opportunity, you are going to face the another, and it will go on. They'll get low level of education, they will be unemployed, they will be underemployed, and then there will be no scope of development. Why I have written this so much, that you get it and you should be able to write it in the exam. So that's why I've given this point, so that you understand in detail. After the vulnerable group, now let's say disadvantaged group. I've already told you that disadvantaged group is where we differentiate them on the basis of race, sex, caste, etc. So, according to general perspective of international law of human rights, these are the peoples who are denied free access to the guaranteed rights. They don't get free access to the guaranteed rights. So, the basic rights, basic human rights, you can say right to education, right to live, etc., etc., right to employment, they are denied of it, they are deprived of it, they are disadvantaged group. It can be on the basis of socio-economic, cultural perspective. The classification of these groups vary from country to country. Okay? In general, in these group there are women, children, social, economically, culturally deprived sections, disables, minorities, etc. These all form part of disadvantaged groups. Now, in these also poverty is the main factor. We saw the same in the other one. Despite the commitment of international law of human rights towards the promotion and protection of rights of this group, there is no agreed standard definition. There is no standard definition. International law of human rights is trying to protect their rights. They have a separate body for it, which we will see in a later part. So there are a list of people who are classified as vulnerable and disadvantaged groups. Who are vulnerable, as we saw, who have a less advantageous position and who are easily influenced or physically or emotionally harmed, subject to unnecessary criticism. They lack development opportunities due to their disadvantageous position, and then that leads to difficulty in getting the employment, getting the educations, and it goes on, and they are homeless, they are struggling ones, they don't get the social exposure in the society. They are the vulnerable group. And disadvantaged groups are who are discriminated on the basis of sex, race, birth, state, anything, caste, religion, disability, or other criteria which may differ from country to country. Especially in this, the one which I included are women, children, socially, economically deprived section, disabled one, minorities. Now we see the concept of vulnerable and disadvantaged group. Already most of the points are covered, but let's go through it again so that you will be able to write in the exam, because there will be one theory question on this. Either it will be meaning, concept, or you discussing the both. So let's see what it's given here. So this concept is as old as human history. Yes, we have seen this happening since our grandfather, forefather ages. From ancient to modern times, we have seen that there have been instances where people have been treated differently. They have been discriminated, right? They have been humiliated, harassed, intimidated through social, political, economical, customary, and cultural factors. Now, what is intimidation here? It is like threatened, or you can say frightened. So they have been discriminated, harassed, humiliated, like all kind of sadness everywhere. So the idea behind this practice is to keep away such people from the forefront of social activities. They have been deprived of social rights. They don't get social life. They have been deprived of life and liberty, depriving their economic and intellectual capacity to subserve the needs of rich and dominant people of a society. Now, in this case, discrimination is normally of two types. One is direct. The second one is indirect. So, direct discrimination is where any person or group of people treated less favorably. See the points, treated less favorably, easily exposed to societal risk. Now, what is societal risk? Means risk of health consequences related to population, can may be affected by hazardous incidents easily. There are two types of risk. One is individual risk, the other one is societal risk. So here we see societal risk. In this process, many a time these people encounter difficulties in exercising their legal rights. Why? Because they're deprived of it. They are deprived of it, or you can say they are harassed. They are not allowed to use their legal rights. freely as guaranteed by both international law of human rights and by the constitution of country. Though international law of human rights as well as the constitution of our country guarantee them their legal rights, but they are deprived of it. So this is direct discrimination. The second one is indirect discrimination. Any practice employed intentionally or unintentionally which exposes people of a particular category. Particular category means vulnerable or disadvantaged group to a specific disadvantageous situation compared with others, unless it is objectively justified by a legitimate aim and the means of achieving that aims are appropriate. So now what is given here, that a specific group is deprived of some advantageous situation, means they are not given the situation, they are not allowed to use their rights, they are deprived of it, and they get specific disadvantageous situation compared to others, means others are getting a better position, we can say that. So this is indirect discrimination, and the first one is they are not allowed to use their legal rights. Second one is they are put into such a situation that they don't get better opportunities or advantageous situations. Now in both the aspect, what we see here is that harassment is the common factor. This is because of segregation of specific group of people with an aim to deprive their dignity in order to create an intimidating, hostile, degrading, humiliating or offensive environment in every moment of their life. So why this is done? That so that they don't get a normal life, they are deprived of it, they are humiliated, they are hostile, they are intimidated, means again I will say they are threatened or frightened. The economic factor contributes for the cause of vulnerability of people, but it cannot include the factors of discrimination based on gender, disability, social, cultural, customary, caste and other types of discriminatory practices. So economic factors decides vulnerability of people and the discrimination decides disadvantaged group. Now this can be like a difference between the two group. Now in order to measure the vulnerability, that is weakness and backwardness in a holistic perspective, it is given that you evaluate from social availability of resources, how much resources they get. Normally they are deprived basic resources like consumption of food, health related sources like hospitals, etc., conventional traditions like entry in temples or religious places, and such practices that are followed in each society. So these type of criteria adopted in each society could alone provide a viable classification of vulnerable and disadvantaged groups. Now in order to halt such practices, means to stop such practices and to wipe out the miseries of the groups of such unfavorable alienated people around the world, what has happened to stop these practices? The international community of human rights of nation states, they adopted a number of documents. They have a special committee also for this, in tune with international law of human rights, to extend protection to everyone. So in these, they have the documents for protection of everyone, including these vulnerable and disadvantaged groups, without any kind of discrimination. So the government or the international laws, the international community, they are coming up with laws, various provisions, various bodies coming together, forming the documents to protect everyone's right. Everyone is equal. Human rights place duties on the individuals and states to eradicate all types of discriminatory practices. That human right is same for all, and all discriminatory practices needs to be stopped, especially towards people who are weak, who are oppressed or on any count. Now due to poverty or due to any other social, cultural barricades that exist in each society, there are millions of people not able to enjoy the basic rights. Even in India, we see this practices a lot. Like India is full of this practice, and poverty is one of the main reason of this. So apart from individual, social, customary practices followed in each society, the politics and policies of nation states also contribute largely What are the other reasons? The politics and policies of nation states also contribute largely for the vulnerability. Now in politics we have started seeing religion. Even in politics we see discrimination on the basis of caste, people supporting people of their caste, and not on the basis of the capabilities of the leader, but they are seeing it on the basis of religion. So there exists a large number of vulnerable and disadvantaged group of people. So international law of human rights extends special consideration for these groups for promotion and protection of their rights. So they have been given special consideration, right? The United Nations has adopted a number of declaration, number of conventions, number of convents to uplift the right of these people. So see the efforts of international law of human rights, United Nations, Indian Constitution to uplift the rights of these people. They have established a special commission, a special organization to deal with the rights of such people whose rights are at jeopardy. Okay. Now to achieve these objectives, to give them equal rights, to uplift their rights, to give them a better life, Government of India has established or enacted a number of acts. They've amended already existing civil, criminal and family laws. So here we see few of the rights of women that are uplifted using the laws brought in India. So the first law is the Dowry Prohibition Act 1961. This is in your syllabus, module 4. You will see that in a later part. So this is prohibiting demanding of dowry. What is dowry? The one you get from the bridegroom's family. The one you get from bride's family. And when in the marriage, so I'm extremely sorry, the Dowry Prohibition Act 1961 prohibits demand of dowry. The dowry is received from bride's family. So accepting dowry and putting pressure on the family to stop that, to prohibit that, this act is brought into consideration and it is considered as a crime under the eye of law. Second is Child Marriage Restraint Act 1929. As per this act, a girl below the age of 18 was restrained from marrying, but in the year 2022, the minimum age limit has increased for girls to age 21 and the same is for boys. So now any child, girl or a boy below the age of 21 cannot get married. That is not legal in India. The Hindu Marriage Act 1955, it provides equal rights of inheritance of property for women as a co-partner in the joint property of a family. Now if there is a joint property in a family, the girl will get the equal right. Immoral Traffic Prevention Act 1986. This act is to prohibit the selling, soliciting of women or girls. We see women, girls being sold for immoral purposes. So to stop that, this act was brought. Aim of this act is to prohibit sexual exploitation of persons, including men and children. It decriminalizes prostitution. Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Act 1986. This act punishes exploitation of women again. Depiction of women in any indecent manner that affects the dignity of women. So again, this is a criminal offense. So almost all these offenses are criminal in nature. Commission of Sati Prevention Act 1987. So Sati is a woman going along with the dead body of a husband, buried live. So this is a criminal offense and now it is punishable, and the person forcing it is also imprisoned. National Commission of Women Act 1990. This is established to monitor the women rights, to safeguard their rights, to recommend remedial measures, to facilitate redressal of grievances, and to advise the government on all policies matter affecting women. So these were the rights for women. Again, there are 2-3. Prenatal Diagnostic Technique Regulation and Prevention of Misuse Act. So this act prohibits scanning of a fetus and performing illegal abortion to kill a female fetus. We have seen that now in sonography the doctors cannot mention the gender, whether it's a boy or a girl. The reason being the girl childs were killed a lot in India. So this act is to stop that. Protection of Women from Domestic Violation Act 2005. Now this act is to protect women from domestic violences, like we have heard women being beaten in the family, or you might have heard in the news ki एक लड़की को जला दिया, मार दिया, and such type of news where the dignity of women is violated or challenged. These type of crimes are criminal offenses, they are punishable. The person doing this is even imprisoned. The Marriage Amendment Act 2001, it amended the Hindu Marriage Act, Special Marriage Act, Parsi Marriage and Divorce Act, the Code of Criminal Procedure CRPC, providing for speedy disposal of application of maintenance. So when you see that maintenance is provided to the spouse, this act provides for speedy disposal considering the status of another spouse. When is maintenance provided? Normally in the case of divorce. Okay, so this was the introduction to the topic vulnerable and disadvantaged groups. Hope you understood the meaning of vulnerable and disadvantaged groups, the points to be kept in mind before attempting the question in the exam. Please go through the theory that is mentioned in it. It will really help you in writing the answer, because this will be a complete theory question where you will have to write the meaning, what you understood in vulnerable group, what you understood what is disadvantaged group. Structural discrimination, we saw the direct, indirect we saw deprived of human rights, and in this they were not getting the proper opportunity or position, you can say. Role of law to overcome discrimination, we saw various laws relating to female where their rights are protected. Criminal law as a tool of social change, we saw that in most of the cases the offense was treated as a criminal offense, and accordingly the people were charged, they were imprisoned, or such type of offenses were given such high level of punishment. So this was the basic introduction. Let's go through the other modules and understand the topic in detail. And also if you have any doubts, you can mail me. You will see the link in the description. Thank you.